Welcome to episode 1 of Brave Alliance. I am Nick, also known as JRPG Live on Twitch. I'm here with Rudy, also known as Lethality on Twitch. How's it going, Rudy?
Going pretty good, man. Going pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing alright. So, we've been having a busy month this month, anniversary
Definitely.
event and all.
Very.
How's that been going?
Man, endless farming, endless lapis spending, tons of energy refills, and so much content to actually be playing the last month that it's been a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's definitely the most events I've seen and played in a month so far. Yeah, unfortunately, it's coming to an end pretty soon.
It sure is.
Do you think that this has been a good anniversary event?
I think if we were to just look at it from our perspective, playing on global, I would say it's been pretty good. I think Gumi has been fairly generous with everything they've given us, starting with the free tickets, the free 11 summon, the 5-star guaranteed summon for 5k lapis, um, the daily little 5 energy run for pots and pure Chris and star quartz. Um, what else did they give us? Obviously the King Mog event, which was great for a lot of people to farm cactars. Although they did, shit the bed with putting the mini tars and the mini cactars and all that shit. But
Right.
overall, I think it was a pretty good event. And we do have one more 11 pull for free for everybody who's been logging in every day for 28 days. You will get it on that 28th day. So something to still look forward to about another week and a half.
Yeah, that's true. You can't forget that. So there have definitely been a lot of free things thrown around. Pretty generous out of Gumi, I would say.
Yeah.
The events, in my opinion, have been pretty fun. I've made good use of them, so can't complain, really. I think it is a worthy anniversary event, something that should be pretty big for any game.
Yeah. I think they definitely did really good. I know a lot of people were complaining that they should have done more. That the Mog with the mini tars, which again I think everybody universally agrees that they did kind of shit the bed. But it was an easy event if you had decent units and you were able to clear elite, even if you didn't do the counterattack, which was kind of interesting that they did with King Mog for the raid. But if you did the elite, I mean, it was literally free raid coins. You didn't have to do shit
Right.
except deal damage and hopefully clear it and get a ton of coins. So I think that in itself, having the free energy, the free 600 exp rank exp that you got for clearing elite, I think all that contributed to everything else that was coming out. I think we had towards the end of that, I think we got the Final Fantasy X banner, I believe, on the second week.
Yes.
I forget what we got on the first week of that. Oh, the Brave Frontier. Brave Frontier was ending.
Still, right, right. Still
Brave
going.
Frontier was ending. Yeah. So, yeah. And if you haven't already, don't forget to finish using your coins to pull. This is your last week to do it. Next week it will be gone. So don't forget to hop on that.
Yeah. One thing with the raid that I really enjoyed, the counterattack was really cool. The mechanics, how to unlock that extra level. And even though it was kind of hard and not really worth farming, you would farm elite instead because, like you said, super easy. You didn't have to do much. And it pretty much gave you the same amount of coins. I think there was about a 600 or 700 difference, but in the end,
Yeah.
you just save so much time. Screw
Yeah.
those coins.
Yeah, time-wise, I think it would have been more ideal to do it. I mean, unless you're a whale and had, 3, 4 Orlandos that could like two-shot them,
Right,
there really was no reason for you to be doing counterattack. I mean, if you wanted to take the extra time and you were willing, great. But I think that time could have been more contributed into. I mean, I don't know if anybody really had a time to TMR farm, but I mean, you had, the daily stuff to do,
right.
event. So you had tons of things to do with your energy and your time that I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did the counterattack. I know a couple of guys that that I've talked to did the counterattack because they wanted the extra coins because they wanted to get up in that high rank for the extra the 10% TMR instead of the 5 or the couple extra tickets.
Right,
So
the
I
ranking
guess if
rewards.
yeah, so I guess in that sense, I mean, if you're really going for it, then power to you. But I thought the elite was good enough for everybody.
Yeah, I could two-turn elite, and the counterattack took me at least 6 turns. So yeah, it was definitely not worth it to me. Just the extra time that it took and the coins. But I
Yeah.
did really like the mechanics of unlocking that extra stage that was kind of hidden. I think that should show up more in the future. It'd be really cool. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time that the game has seen anything like this.
Yeah, that whole secret mechanic was actually pretty interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people never figured it out. I personally couldn't have figured it out had it not been for my buddy Pound Town. He's actually the one that kind of showed me how to do it. I never really looked into it. I just kind of hopped into it and
Right.
just decided to do it. But and I unlocked it. I cleared it once and realized, you know what, it's not worth the time. But
Yeah. So now that anniversary is ending, though, and it's been 1 full year of the game, how do you feel about the first year of Brave Exvius?
I think they started off strong and they really started to kind of slow down. Content was taking a long time to come out. They were having a lot of problems with either banners or a lot of bugs. We did have that one day that the game was down for well over, I don't know, I think it was like 16 hours of maintenance, and then it came back up and then it fucked up again. So even beyond all that, they started coming out with banners or events weekly. They finally brought over the raid events. They did the King Mog events. They started adding better items and equipment and all that into the Mog trading. Uh, Great units. The addition to the global exclusive units like Fravia, Olive, Roberta. So I think overall, throughout these last 12 months, they've started good. They kind of went downhill and then they finished really, really strong. And I don't really see them slowing down. And I really, really hope they continue on the path that they've been going on right now.
Yeah, I can say since I played JP for the greater part of this Exvius year, and since I recently came back, I do agree they have finished really strong. In the beginning, it was not very impressive to me personally. There wasn't much going on, and it's not like they really had a choice in the matter. They still were translating content, and the game was in its early stages. But once you beat the first island, you had absolutely nothing to do for a good month and a half of the game. Just
Yeah.
grind characters. And I think now with their monthly content releases, there's a new event every week. That's great because the first event I remember was that gravity rod nonsense,
Yeah.
or was it the Mog King cakes? I'm not sure which one came first, but
I think the Mod King cakes did.
I did not enjoy that event, and all the events lately I have greatly enjoyed. So yeah, I definitely liked it. As far as the first year goes, and my point that I was trying to make from being a JP player is that I think, as far as Gumi has done with Global, they've done a great job. JP has gotten a lot of cool stuff, but again, they have ended really strongly.
Yeah. One other thing that I think Gumi has done really good about, especially for their newer players, is re-releasing older content. We recently just got the Maxwell event. We just got what is it? The Final Fantasy fuck. Not oh shit. What's the event that's going on? The one that just came back.
Oh, Memories of Aquapolis.
Yes, Memories of Aquapolis. That's what it is. I think that was an Exvius
Yeah,
one.
that's an Exvius one,
Yeah.
right?
So that just came back. So it gives all the older play or all the new players a chance at all the gear that, a lot of people couldn't unlock.
Right.
Some extra Moogle, some extra tickets. I know that a lot of the older ones, like the Gilgamesh one, didn't have um, the objectives, so they added objective incentives
Okay.
for re-returning or for older players to revisit the content and
Right.
have
That's
a
cool.
reason to spend the energy on it. I know they did that for the exploration that they did recently. Not this most recent event. I think they did it for the Final Fantasy IV event. They added in that, so that was a reason to replay that content.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's great. That's really cool. Because I'm sure some of the older players were like, "Oh, a rerun of an event I've already completed," and then they find out they actually get some new stuff. So
Yeah.
that's actually pretty cool. All right. And as far as the future of Exvius goes, what do you think is in store for year two? What do you think Gumi's got for us?
Well, we definitely have some great events coming up. We do have a full, I think it's 5 more months of fan festas, so I'm sure there's going to be maybe a few more collabs. I know that we have the Near Automata collab as well as the second Ariana Grande unit and event. Um, I'm sure we're going to see at least one or two more collabs coming in. If as long as they keep this up, with the consistent uh, content and quality of life that are coming much, much faster than we were anticipating from JP over to global. I think that it's going to be a good sign for the longevity of the game, whether it's for newcomers starting the game or even old big time players like myself who've been playing since day one, or yourself as well. To incentivize us to keep playing, to keep spending money, and even for those free to play players to have a reason to keep playing the game because they're always going to have something to do, something to work towards, and eventually, you never know, there's plenty of players out there that I'm sure were free to play and were sworn free to play players, and one or two things come out and boom, they start dropping money. I know a lot of players are going to start spending money for their favorite units, like for the Final Fantasy VII banner. I'm sure a lot of players are going to be dropping money for Cloud when it comes to global. So I think as long as the game keeps bringing in, whether it's new content like global exclusive content, or even current content in JP, or even past, like the Veritas units coming out sometime in the future, and just keeping up with the quality of life features that are in JP currently, I think year two and on are going to be great for Gumi and for Brave Exvius.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, like you said, for the free to play and new players, they don't want to be put off by so much content already in the game. They're like, well, I have to play catch up. But Gumi has been doing a great job at making that very easy to do because,
Yeah.
I mean, my account is 50, 60 days old, so 2 months old
Yeah.
about now, and I am caught up, I would say. So
Yeah.
you can't really complain. As far as year two goes, yeah, I think there should be a lot of cool stuff. Fan Festa, like you mentioned, is going to be really cool. That's a lot of like mini events throughout year two that wasn't around for the first year. So
Yeah.
that'll be pretty interesting. And that's going to be alongside everything else they've been doing lately. So, yeah, pretty impressive. The mass amount of content that's been released. Even when you count the global exclusive content, that's fresh content as well. So it's impressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So, speaking of some of the new content and new updates, we've gotten many recent updates lately. And first, that I'd like to talk about, we're going to go in chronological order. So, that would be Final Fantasy X.
Which is the most recent event that just finished last week.
Right.
Yeah, had to think about that. Yeah, yeah. Titus, Riku, and Waka were the units that came out. There was some pretty good equipment that was available if you did the quest. Not a lot of people knew about the quests or how to get them or even unlock them unless you used the Reddit or Wiki.
Right.
Probably the most notable piece of equipment was the Razzmatazz. It was at an underwhelming 76 attack, but it's probably one of the best pieces of equipment for anybody who does consistently participate in arena, with the 30% chance of sleep and stone, which is pretty big in arena. If you slap that onto a Noctis or anybody who can do AoE, it's a great equipment. The other two, I think, were Hyperball, which is a 55 attack throwable, and what was I think Override? I think it was called. It was
Yeah.
a 50
Overdrive.
attack fist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had a second overdrive, but I forget what that actually did.
It increases your limit break gain per
That's
turn.
what it was.
So
Yeah,
that's actually really strong, and I still use it on my Riku just for that effect.
yeah, because Riku's LB is amazing.
Right. So when you're getting your limit break every turn, every other turn with her even, it's pretty ridiculous.
Oh yeah, especially even just for most of the units. I mean, at least for the two notable units, which was Riku, which is probably currently the best support unit you can get on global right now, and
Well,
Titus, which is probably one of the best chainers right now,
right.
outside of Orlando and everything. So for those of you who are lucky enough to get Titus, he's got a great weapon. He, I believe, has currently the strongest weapon up until the trial comes out tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday.
Right. He's
Um,
125 attack brotherhood, I believe.
130.
Okay.
130, and it's a water element.
Right.
Um, and he's got some pretty good attacks. Um, Most notably his quick hit, which I believe is 12 fast hits. His limit burst doesn't take very long to fill up, and usually he can refill that bar up if I think it's only like 10 crystals he needs to fill it up.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, because I know he has the water imperil on his limit break, so it's pretty necessary to get his kit going.
yeah. He has 100% resistance to water. He has the 30% natural evade, which is probably his most noticeable stat, which makes him viable for a lot of different cheese strats, like Gilgamesh or even the Esper Trials, using the correct equipment. With that natural 100%, he basically takes no damage from Siren outside of dark damage. But you slap on Diabolus and some elemental resists, and he can pretty much tank both Ifrit and Siren and solo the entire trial.
Well, that's definitely useful.
Yeah. As far as Riku just has probably one of the best all-around kits. She has a very, very good TMR, which is Riku's Pouch,
Yep.
which only gives 3 defense, but it does enable her to use Chaos Grenade, which inflicts random ailments, 100% Petrify, and then 30% for all others. It also does a 30% break on all enemies, but it does cost 50 mana, or MP, so it does quite a bit of cost, but at a very good advantage to your team. It also has Panacea, I believe it's called,
Yeah.
which cures all status elements for your team, and Eccentric, which boosts your limit break crystal fill rate by 200% for your entire team for 5 turns.
Yeah.
And I think that comes at a very, very cheap cost. I think it's like 20 something MP.
Yeah, that's the most impressive skill on the pouch, to me, anyway.
Yeah.
It's really useful.
Yeah. Let alone, her entire kit really revolves around just supporting your team. She has some pretty good traits that, should help her out with, I think it's MP, HP, and attack increase for herself. The attack is not really important, but the HP and MP are. She does, I think, have natural evade, but I'm not sure. I think it's per chance. I'm not sure if it's natural or if it's chance. Um, and she has all other kinds of elemental damage. Um, she has Mug, so for those of you who don't have Zon, she does have Mug and Steel. And she also has, I think, a AoE Revive, which is her most noticeable skill um,
Oh, yeah.
out of her entire kit.
Yep, AoE Revive's pretty useful. And I've been using her as well for chains and elemental chains. They're actually
Yeah.
pretty useful. She has a uh, ice, water, fire, and lightning ability, I believe.
Mhm.
And those are all pretty strong.
Yeah.
But those were pretty much the only two useful units out of the 10 banner. Waka, even as TMR, not very useful. I suppose you could use it on Tidus, but that is completely unnecessary. You're going to be farming Brotherhood anyway.
Yeah.
So poor Waka, he is useless. Throw him in the garbage. Don't even worry about TM farming him. He's got nothing for you.
Yeah. Now, although for new players, he is a decent unit. I wouldn't say he's the greatest unit. It depends on how soon you started playing. Um, he's, he's got some decent equipment. Unfortunately, he is only a 5-star base or a 5-star max, a 3-star base. Um, I think he's a decent unit. I wouldn't say he's a unit that's going to last very long as the game progresses and more banners come along and you start pulling for more. But in the meantime, I think he's a suitable unit to use, especially if you manage to get that fist from the event
All
or the
right.
hyper ball.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. There was also the Hyperball. So we talked about Macalania Woods and the units from 10. I believe that was the only update we got for 10.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so next we had Final Fantasy 12.
Yes.
So this was pretty cool. I
It's actually
enjoyed this banner.
Yeah, it's actually still
Still
going.
going. Yeah. It ends tonight. So
Yes. No, tomorrow night.
tomorrow, right? Yes, you're
Tomorrow.
right.
So you have one more day.
Yeah.
Well, depending on when you're watching this.
Yeah. Well, it's the 20th right now. So yeah. 12 though. 12 introduced some more interesting changes, I think, with global exclusive Zargaboth. How do you feel about
Yes.
Zargaboth?
Zargaboth got a lot of shit at the beginning of the event. Not a lot of people really found him useful. As time progressed, though, people started really discovering his true, I guess, his ability to really shine in, what is it? Oh my God, what's her trial? Echidna trial. He really, really shines in that trial with the 100. I think it's 100% inability to get um, any kind of status effect except, of course, her charm and poison.
Yeah.
Uh, He's the only unit that has a 100% buff to all your stats for several turns. I think it's 4 or 5 turns, but it's only for one ally as opposed to a teammate. But it
Right.
only costs 20 MP, which is ridiculously cheap for something that powerful.
And then the best we had prior to that was 70% for one ally, correct? From Minfilia? I'm not
Yes,
sure
from
if it was
affiliate,
also
yes.
from other characters.
No,
So
I
that
think
is
it's from
that is a
affiliate.
huge jump.
Yeah.
70 to 100. Like that sets the
And for four
standard.
turns. I think hers was only for 2 or 3.
3, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so an additional
So
turn.
that sets the standard for buffs now. That's ridiculous. How are they going to be able to live up to this now? Like, what what is the next buff? 100% to all allies? Like,
Yeah, but that's probably not going to be for sometime down the line, but it'd probably be the next step as far as going from there.
yeah,
Um, the next notable skill that he has is Rejuvenate, which is the 100% HP heal and the 50% MP heal. Now that's pretty crucial for players who don't happen to have any MP batteries. I think that just being able to recover 50%, I'm pretty sure he can cast it on himself. I'm not
I'm not
sure. I
sure.
don't have a Zargabath, so I can't test it myself right now. And most of my Zargabath friends are no longer there because they've swapped their units to better units for the current event going on right now for the
Right.
story.
Yeah. I definitely think that the I can't remember the name of it, but there's an ability that reduces incoming damage for the next turn or 2 or 3. I'm not sure. That's really useful. Also,
That's his limit burst, I believe.
okay, it's in his limit burst, but it's also attached to a light elemental ability he has.
Uh, oh, Word of Law is what it is.
Okay. And this has.
It's light magic damage to all enemies and with a 50% spirit ignore, and then reduce 20% damage, or reduce damage incoming for 20% for 2 turns to all allies.
Yeah. That ability is pretty good. And I think, like, also how you were saying with Rejuvenate, if you have a Tillith and you MP regen with her, HP MP regen with her, and then you can rejuvenate Tillith, and it's just basically full heal, MP heal for your
Yeah,
entire team.
so they kind of work hand in
Yeah,
hand.
they work pretty well together.
Yeah, the last I think, well, the last two very notable skills that he has are Bastion, which gives you 40% element resistance for all elements,
Right.
for as an AoE for 3 turns, which is, I believe, better than what Minfilia and um who is it? And Tillith, we were just talking about Tillith,
Okay.
her Rainbow Veil, because this actually covers every element, and
Right.
both of theirs didn't cover Dark. You had to use Minfilia for Dark.
Right.
And then Arcadian Light, which gives you 60% boost to all your stats for 3 turns and increases your resistance to blind, paralyzed, confused, and disease for 3 turns.
Yeah, that ability is definitely useful. That's why people were wanting to run him in the Echidna trial, because he just made your team status immune, basically.
Yeah,
So,
he pretty much became the all-round support unit that you needed. You didn't need to run Riku, you didn't need to run Minfilia, you just needed to run him. If you got him, of course, since he is a 5-star base, which was the only unfortunate part of him. It was that he was a 5-star base, so not a lot of people got him.
he he was the only 5-star on the banner, though, correct?
Yes, he
Okay.
was the only 5-star banner, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think he was pretty cool. And being a global exclusive unit, I'm sure Japan is a little jealous because he's super useful as a support. Like you
Yes.
said earlier about Riku being the best support, while I do agree with that, I think Zargabath is extremely good in his own unique ways. And if you can fit him into your team, you definitely should, because he's pretty cool.
Yeah. And also, his TMR is actually pretty decent. I believe it gives you 15% resistance to all elements except dark, which was, kind of ironic, but and it gives you 20 spirit and I think 30 or 35 defense. So, definitely not a not an item to miss on him.
Right. So, uh, after Zargaboth, who else was in this banner?
We had Razzler and Ash, which were the only two other highly notable units
Okay.
for the banner. For Ash, she's a mage slash support kind of in the middle. She did have, I think, her most notable skill, which is Heaven's Fury, which dealt a lot of magic damage. I forget, it was like, I think like a 2 point something modifier with a 25% ignore for spirit to all enemies. It was an AoE.
Yeah.
And it healed all your allies for a good amount of health. It wasn't just kind of a pushover skill. It's actually a pretty nasty skill for you. She did have, I think it's a magic and spirit buff for, I think it was slightly higher. I think it was 45 or 50% for your team for 5 turns. She had there was only one other. Oh, and it was the introduction to the Thandajas, or the Ja.
Right, the Jaws.
The
Yep.
Ja skills. Yeah, she's the first unit to have a Ja skill, which is Thandaja, which not only does it deal more damage with a slightly higher modifier than Thandaga, but it also has a consecutive damage increase as the more you use it, and I think it's limited to the 5th use.
Okay.
So once it hits the 5th use, it is at its highest point.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we start to see some more return of mage damage dealers.
Yeah.
Because
Especially.
they've been out of the mix for quite a while now.
Yeah, I don't think mages have been very used recently, especially with the coming trial, which kind of completely makes mages useless. I mean, you can still use them, but I believe, we'll get more into that later. The last thing notable for Ash is her TMR, which is probably the best accessory for mages and supports right now.
Yeah, definitely is.
Which is it's called, I think, Ash's Ring. It gives you a 30% mag and MP, as well as a 50% light resistance. So, you slap 2 on these and you have 100% light resistance and 60% MP and mag on, whether it be your mage. It's pretty good item on Tillith, simply for the 30%. It's more accessible TMR than Transterra for the 30% MP.
Yeah.
Because she's a 4-star. From there, the only other unit, I guess Vaughn. Vaughn got his 6-star buff, but he's still not really a high-end unit. He does have a full break, which is great for new players if you don't have any breakers. He's definitely a good unit. He's a 3-star base, goes up to 6 now. He does have focus, which is a 40% increase to your magic and your spirit for your allies for, I think, 3 turns. He has, I think, I don't think he really has any other like highly notable skills. He does have a wind skill. I think it's Arrow, Aurora, and Aeroga. But other than that, he's not a popular unit. He's not a unit you're probably going to be using if you've been playing this game for a while. There's definitely better alternatives to him as far as his toolkit, and his TMR is okay. Definitely not one of the better armors available in the game right now. And then there's Razzler, which has probably one of the best TMRs for tanks or for anybody who you want to get kind of healthy. It is 30% HP and 20% defense,
Oh wow.
and it gives you resistance to light for I think it's 30%, somewhere around there. Um, it's definitely a very, very strong thing. It's actually not an accessory. I think it's a passive. It's an ability.
Oh
Um,
right. Okay.
not it. Yeah. So it's definitely something that you'd want to slap on. Your Warrior of Light or your Cecil or your White Knight Noel if you've had him, or Wilhelm, or whoever your tank is at the moment.
Yeah, that's really good. That's probably the strongest defensive ability right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure of anything that gives anything better than that at the moment.
Not that anything that stacks on any additional stats other than health, no, or defense.
All right. Well, yeah, that's pretty good. Out of the units to actually use, though, I don't think Razzler is very strong, not very useful compared to the counterparts that came with them on this banner. Vaughn's update, who cares? I don't like Vaughn. I didn't like him in Final Fantasy XII.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Bosch to come out because he was the real protagonist of Final Fantasy XII. Delete Vaughn. And then our most recent update, the Brave Exvius event that we just got, the expiration event that's still going on. It's going to be going on for another week now.
Yes.
And these units, I actually have not seen any of them yet in game. None of my friends have used them. I'm sure they have them, but they are using somebody else for obvious reasons. Like we had the raid and we had the bonus units for Final Fantasy XII. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, what do you think about these units?
As far as these units, I'm not too familiar with most of them. Again, not a lot of people have them. I haven't really pulled for this banner because I didn't really think it was a strong banner to pull for. I do know that Lunera is a pretty good unit. She is going to be probably not a Ramza killer, but definitely a Ramza replacement if you don't have Ramza already. For those of you who managed to pull her, her Elven Song is probably her most notable skill, which gives 40% stat boost to your entire team while singing. Now, remember, it's a song, so she's going to be immobile during this.
Right. She can't make
sh
any other actions.
No. She can heal. It's a good amount. I think it's like 13,000 HP throughout those 3 turns, and she also gives you a small refresh for those 3 turns. So it's definitely a very good good skill. It's probably her most useful skill. Outside of that, the only other really notable skill is her beautiful shield, which gives 40 or 50% light and wind resistance, which is going to be great.
Okay. Yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah. Moving on to her TMR, I think it's a bow. I don't remember.
Yep, it's a bow, and it's pretty much only useful for her.
Yeah, it's kind of it's not only her, but it's probably not the greatest for anybody else. Bows aren't really used that often. For her, I guess it would be pretty good because she can use it. It's got a lot of magic. It's got decent attack, so it definitely puts her up there as far as damage. If you don't have any mages, this is definitely a kind of a blend of a mage support unit. So definitely, if you do end up getting her, she definitely has some bonuses to her.
Yeah, I think Lunera is Gumi's way of saying the Bard meta is coming.
Yeah.
So everybody who's wondering where Ramza is, this is a version of Ramza. It's a Ramza prototype, basically. So
Yeah.
Ramza enhancements. I'm sure they'll be here soon enough.
Yeah. Now moving on to Bran. Bran has some shields, or actually resistance increases. I think it's 50% to lightning and light. Um, I think he also has Elven Song, but it's not as strong as Lunera's. Lunera's gives the team a boost. His Elven Song only does the heal and the refresh, and it's slightly. Actually, no, I think it's the same. It just doesn't give the stat boost. He does have Osmos Blade, which is good for support, for himself to help keep the team kind of boosted on anything he needs. Other than that, he's got somewhat of a lackluster kind of skill set. Um, for newer players, it's definitely a pretty good unit, I would say. The skills that he has, most of them are AoE, so definitely going to be helpful for the future. He does have, I think, his most useful skill, which would be Thunderclap, which does lightning and light damage, and also has a 50% imperil to lightning and light. So it definitely helps out when you're trying to use him as an attacker. Other than that, he doesn't really have anything else highly notable. He does have a few magic skills, but definitely not that amazing. Um, his TMR is definitely decent. It's 30% MP increase and 20% attack, and it gives you an additional 30% resistance to lightning. Um, not too sure what units would really use it or benefit from it. Perhaps somebody who has really low MP costs and would like some extra and some decent damage increase. Perhaps like a Chizuru, who has kind of a small pool when you're using Phantom Shadow. Of course, until you use her enhancements,
Right.
as an example. But other than that, not the most useful, but definitely a great TMR if you happen to pull it and you don't have any MP or attacking uh, TMR or traits to equip.
Okay.
Um, uh, Last but not least is Helena. She does have some decent skills. She does have Mug to steal from units. She does have a revive, which is useful for those of you who don't have any units with revive. It's only a 30% one, so it's definitely not the best out there. It's a pretty standard one.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely not the best.
yeah. However, she does have a very useful skill, particularly for raids, or not raids, sorry, for certain trials and for arena, which gives essentially it's a kind of like a goddess protection from Tilith Steamar, which gives you an increased resistance to just about every status effect by 100%. And let's see. I think that's it for like highly notable things. Although she does have her limit burst is actually pretty decent. Let me see here. I've got my notes here. She's got a 4 times or 3.9% damage, physical damage with an ignore of 50%, and increases all attack and mag for all allies from 40%, and once your limit burst has been upgraded, it does go up to a whopping 64%, which is pretty great, considering if it's just for a limit burst.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree with that. Not bad for limit burst.
Yeah. And then, of course, for those of you who have been doing your dailies and probably getting shit, I am sure you guys probably have a stockpile of Ruggles. For those of you that haven't pulled him, fuck you guys.
Yeah, Ruggles is got an interesting skill with manufacture where he randomly at a percentage uses one of 4 skills, which I think is pretty cool. I want to see some more of it. I know Setzer has something similar to that. So I think they can be pretty cool, and there's some fun to be had with that. As far as practicality goes, probably not that good. And I don't know if you could ever make a mechanic like that really good, because then you would just make it overpowered. But still cool. He's got a song, so like I said earlier about Gumi introducing the Bard meta, I definitely think that is coming. He doesn't really have anything else of note, he being a 3-star and all. His TM is pretty strong. It's Master's Hammer. It's a Earth hammer. Yeah, Earth Element hammer for 108 attack. So it's pretty good if you have like an Eileen or somebody else that you want an elemental chain with. Then yes, grab that Master's Hammer, slap it on whoever can use a hammer that you've got, and go ahead. I know Warrior Light can wield hammer, so yeah, there's quite a few characters you can use if you are rocking an Eileen, and I think it'd be useful to grab one of those hammers.
Yeah, and especially if you don't have a second Eileen to farm a second Artisan, being that both Artisan and the Hammer have an Earth element, it would be great if you're using obviously the Earth element. Um, but all obviously other alternatives would be like Genji Blade, anything that's non-elemental to boost up the attack. But that Hammer is definitely a great addition. It's already Earth element, so you wouldn't really be losing out on the split damage. So I think that's going to be a very useful equipment. So Ruggles, even though he's not a great unit overall, his TMR is definitely something useful.
Yeah, definitely useful. So outside of all 3 of these, we've had all 3 of these events. We've had quite a few changes to the meta consecutively. Riku changed a lot. Titus brought some new precedents for damage, being like having the highest weapon TMR, and Ash has some great chaining. She's really good in arena. She has some cool healing potentials, and she brought the Ja abilities, like you mentioned. So a lot of new additions. We also had, prior to this, one more unit that really changed the landscape of the meta, and that was Tillith from Brave Frontier. And Tillith is pretty much the epitome of a healer. She is miles above everybody else, I think, is safe to say. How do you feel about Tillith?
No, I agree. I think Tilly definitely added a completely new landscape to what a support / healer can do. You know, she most notably has a full AoE heal as well as a full revive for as many units that are dead. She does have high MP cost to kind of fluctuate or kind of balance out that kind of really powerful amount. She is limited to not you being able to use any kind of weapons. So that's kind of a downfall to being able to raise her spirit or health or for whatever. And she does have Rainbow Veil, which is probably one of her more useful skills, which allows, I think it's 30% increase to most elements for I think 3 turns.
I believe so.
Yeah, she has a 99 MP cost, heal and MP. I think it's 50 or 60 MP that it restores for everybody except herself. She has a generous heal with all status effects removed except for stone. Yeah, I think out of those skills, I mean, what's not to love about her? I mean, nobody really comes close as far as healing because she can do a full heal.
Right.
And it's not even that expensive. I think it only costs about 45.
Yep.
Yeah, so She provides elemental support. Um, she she's just an overall well-rounded unit, and all you really need to build on her is a lot of HP and a lot of MP because, I mean, you don't really need any spirit because nothing's really going to be affected if you're going to be using the full heal.
Right. It
Of
is an
course, it will.
ability. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So of course, I mean, unless you're going to be using the status effect or the heal and MP skill, you're really not in the need of anything except for HP and MP to be able to keep those costs and to keep her healthy.
Definitely.
Overall, if for those of you who were unfortunate to not pull her during the event, or if you started playing after Tillith came out and the banner had been long gone, you really don't are kind of limited to healer options. Refia, which is going to be coming up in the next banner this Friday,
Right.
is probably going to be your best bet for healer.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy XIV raid has come around twice already, which was for a free Y'shtola, which is probably the next notable healer. Outside of that, if you manage to pull Ash during the Final Fantasy XII event, that's going to be a useful healer.
Yeah, she can
Not
function pretty decently as a healer, surprisingly,
yeah,
with the
yeah,
damage ability. So,
yeah. So I think if you didn't pull Tillith, you almost feel like you're hindered in the game if you are stuck with Refia or Y'shtola. Now, granted, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Of course, you know they're able to use rods and staffs and all that, and they both can cure just about any status effect on yourself or on any of your teammates. So there is that. They do both have full revives. Y'shtola has an innate dual cast ability. Uh, Unfortunately, Tillith does not have the ability to be able to do anything dual cast because all of her skills are not magic.
right.
They're all geez, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even remember what this thing's called. But yeah, you can't do any of that on her as of right now. Oops. So there's all that. Uh, so overall, I think she's probably the most notable unit that really kind of changed the meta and truly affected how a lot of these future trials and all these new content that's going to be coming out that's going to be of high difficulty. You know, without having her, you aren't limited to, but it's definitely going to be a lot more difficult to be able to have to cover so many different bases. And with all these new, you know, with all the power creep coming up and, you know, all the health increases, that it's
Yep.
going to be really difficult for both Refia and Y'shtola to be able to keep up with the heals and the high health caps.
Yeah. So I know if my tank takes majority of the damage and the rest of my team takes damage from an AoE or two, let's say, then if I'm using Y'shtola, I can't heal my entire party. I can fully heal the tank, but the rest of my party is still going to be taking that AoE damage. With Tillith, instant full heal, doesn't cost that much. Costs double than. Costs, I think, double
Kiraga.
than two.
No, triple than Kiraga.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, but then a dual cast Kiraga you would use. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, even though if you don't have Tillith, you can still complete all the content just fine, you're definitely going to have a bit of a extra challenge.
That's our special guest.
That's right. We also had Warrior Light enhancement. Finally, we have some real tanks that we can use. Wilhelm released, and now Warrior Light. Yeah, I know White Knight Noel has been around, but now there are actual options for tanking.
Yeah, with all these new additions to the tank pool, you know, as far as Wilhelm or Warrior of Light enhancements and his 6-star boost, you know, Cecil has kind of taken the back burner on that. Even with his upcoming enhancements, I don't think he's going to be quite He's probably still going to be sitting on the bench for most of you. For new coming players, he's probably the best tank you could possibly pull for in this upcoming banner. Um, Outside of obviously Lunith and Dark Knight Cecil. Um, being able to pull him, he's got a 6-star. He's got healing. He's got a boost to, I believe it's defense and no, not defense, attack, magic and spirit. Um, he's pretty tanky. He has innate provoke. He doesn't have the highest damage mitigation, unfortunately. But his limit burst is pretty decent. Overall, he's a good tank if you don't have the other options, which are Warrior of Light, White Knight Noel, or Wilhelm. White Knight Noel being the only global exclusive unit as well as a limited time unit. He may come around during the Christmas time this coming year, but as of right now, you cannot pull him. Let's see. So both, now that we were mentioning kind of the current meta, Refia and Cecil are both going to be available in this upcoming banner. So it may not be the greatest banner for most of the player base, but definitely for a lot of the new players, it's definitely a banner to go for. There's lots of great units in there. Most notably the 4 that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So if you haven't pulled or you've been saving your tickets for a good banner for new players, this is definitely one I would recommend. For old timers, if you're going for the Lunith and the Dark Knight Cecil enhancements or enhanced units, definitely pull. That's one of the first and few, or not the first, but one of the few banners that does have 2 5-star base units.
Yep.
With the last one being the People's Choice banner. So definitely time to pull with both of their enhancements. They're going to be ridiculous finishers, especially Lunith, but we'll get more into that later. As far as for the remainder of the meta, whether it be mages or attacking units, with the introduction of Titus, most notably recently, as well as TG Sid, also known as Orlando, from a few banners ago. Chainers have become a massive thing. It's definitely been a mechanic that's been around since the beginning, but it's definitely not been a huge thing up until recently, a couple months ago when Orlando came out. Right now, Titus was the most notable outside of Ash for chaining, and believe me, when you chain, you do disgusting amounts of damage. So I think now with the enhancements coming to Lunith and to Dark Knight Cecil, I think finishers are starting to finally come back into the meta. I don't know how well they're going to fit, but definitely having 2 more units into join, the likes of Olive up in the high ranks of finishing. It's definitely going to be a welcome addition to the future content.
Oh yeah, it's about time that there's some more viable finishers to use.
Yeah, we've gone way too long without any.
Alright, well, moving on from the updates, we also had our first Festa event, which was pretty cool. We got a lot of cool stuff for just the event occurring, and I know the people that attended got a lot of cool stuff as well. They actually got a event-specific unit, Artisan Lid, which is cool. I am under the impression, from what I've heard, that she is not strong, so anybody who couldn't attend the event, don't worry about it. She's not strong, she doesn't change anything. I believe she is also a 5-star maximum as well. So just kind of a novelty unit, but I think it's cool how they gave it out.
Yeah. For those of us who didn't participate, obviously, or weren't available, I think it was on Tuesday during reset, we received our rewards, which were, I think it was three, no, I think it was one or two tickets and a full set of Pure Crisps, which was great. I didn't actually know what the hell that was for until I checked. I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's for the Fan Festa." So that
Yeah.
was a nice little thing to wake up to. Um,
I think we got 6 5-star Moogles. Yeah,
yes, we did get
that
six.
was pretty crazy.
Yeah, we got 30% worth of Moogles in the form of six 5-star or 5% Moogles. Most notably, we did get some more information for upcoming quality of life as well as upcoming units.
Yep.
We got insight to, like I mentioned earlier, the Ariana Grande unit and event. We got insight as to the Near Automata units, as well as 2 exclusive units that are going to be coming to Global, um, which are A2 and Eve, alongside 2B, 9S, 210, and Atom. We got a heads up that Sephiroth is coming. We're gonna assume that a good portion of the Final Fantasy VII units are gonna be coming during that banner. Lauren and Balthier are gonna be coming to Global, and unfortunately, we were also informed that the Dragon Quest collaboration that happened in JP is not going to make it to Global. So that was kind of an upsetting thing to see, but I guess, with
Rest
I
in
think
peace, 40% materia.
they're gonna try and stick to having, some collabs exclusive to JP and some exclusive to Global. So I think it's a fair trade, but unfortunately, it would have been really great to get our hands on those units from that collaboration. Oh, and one last thing, the 3% increase to pulls on for Rainbows and Global,
Rainbow
it's
crystals. Yep.
it's coming. We
Confirmed.
don't know when,
But
uh,
confirmed.
but confirmed. It could be tomorrow. It could be in a week, 2 weeks. It could be next year. We just don't know, but it's coming, and I think that's great news for us, especially for those of us who spend quite a bit of money on this game. Like myself, who has spent a couple $100 on this game, and I'm sure the whales are going to be very happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be great to see finally get our hands on being able to have a slightly higher chance, but still getting fucked by RNGesus on our 11 pulls and so forth.
So, with the announcement of more global exclusive units, A2 and Eve, from the Near Automata collaboration, they're really pulling out all the stops with the global units. Like we talked about, Zargaboth is ridiculous, and he did set the precedence for buffs. He has the highest buff in the game. So with A2 and Eve coming, I think they are also going to do something similar. They're going to be very strong units, being the global exclusive units. They might add some more new mechanics. Not more new mechanics, but as they introduce more like meta changes from JP slowly into global, I think they have a lot of room to work with the global exclusive units and do some cool stuff with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I mentioned earlier, with a lot of the global exclusive units that have been coming to us, I mean, the most notable up until recently were Olive, Fravia, and Roberta, and White Knight Noel. Definitely can't forget about them.
And all of those characters are still at the top of
relevant.
their game right now, right? They are still very relevant.
Yeah. Most notably, Olive and Fravia. They're probably the 2 highest tier global exclusive units. White and Noel is probably up there as a tank. Probably not the best because his moveset is not the greatest, but he is the only unit that has the highest mitigation damage, as well as an innate provoke, which with a much higher percentage, and a damage mitigation as well. So he can reach, I think, about 80 to 90% damage mitigation with steel. Of course, it is only a one turn. It's a per turn use skill, so it doesn't last forever. It only lasts for the turn, but it's a great skill to have for nukes, for any incoming, for bosses, or for trials. Um, Olive has the highest damage, raw damage. Once stacked properly, she can reach 1204 attack, which is the highest in the game as of right now, from what I know.
Yeah.
Uh, Fravia is probably the highest magic reacher. She definitely breaks over the 1,000 mark. I'm not 100% sure what her max is, especially with the more recent additions to the game from Ash, and getting those two MP and magic accessories. So I'm sure she can break high into the thousands. Roberta is probably one of the best chainers outside of Fravia. She covers a lot of different elements. She's got a
Yep,
good
that's
kit.
true.
So I think overall, every global exclusive 5-star base unit has been excellent. I don't think there's anything wrong with most of the units that have been global exclusive. A lot of them kind of work hand in hand. For example, Amelia and Olive. Amelia provides similar skills to Olive. Definitely doesn't reach the highest potential that she can, but her TMR works hand in hand with Olive, which ultimately makes her one of the highest damage dealing finishers in the game.
All right. Yeah. So I want to talk about the unit design winner from FanFest Paris. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but
Yes,
Cersei, I believe is how it's said.
yeah. Unless they were trying to go for Cersei, like from Game of Thrones, but I think it is Cersei.
Yeah, Cersei. What do you think about this unit?
I think the unit overall is an interesting concept. Definitely well thought out. They definitely thought about, just about everything. Overall, the design is interesting. They definitely had a good artistic skill. Interesting backstory as well. Coming from Mysidia
Right.
and
Yep. She is
having
from
premonitions
Mysidia.
that came true.
She is actually from the Exvius world.
Yes. Um, she has pretty good skills, some pretty unique to her. Her TMR is a little more to be desired, but of course, I don't think they wanted to make a broken unit, and I'm sure Gumi is going to change it up a little bit. I'm sure it's not going to stick to what it currently is at. I think the most noticeable thing was the predict skills and the condemn uh, skill. The predict kind of worked hand in hand. It did one of them, I believe, was similar to Olive's mortar beacon, which triggers upon starting a match, and then comes down after the third turn. Except that hers was an actual AOE, as
Right.
opposed to Olive's, which I think is a single target.
That's AoE.
Is it AOE?
Yep.
Okay. I use Olive all the time. I should know that, but everything just about dies before mortar beacon gets to come down. So, um,
Yeah.
and
True.
then it's got predict rapture and oblivion, which are also all work hand in hand. Ultimately, you can have 3 skills come down at one turn, all of which are AOE, and all of them have kind of all work hand in hand. Condemn is actually the most interesting skill, though, which randomly casts 4 of the kind of high um, damage. What do you call elemental skills? I think it was Typhoon, Freeze, something Freeze, Sandstorm, and Heat Wave.
Yep.
So definitely cool. The only downfall I saw to the unit is that it had very, very minimal elemental coverage that you can actually choose from. Most of it would be chance based, which, if you're going into a trial or something like that, you can't always leave it to chance. You kind of want to be able to pick and choose what you need and what you want to do.
Right.
Um, so, but overall, the unit I think is unique. I don't think that They it's a well thought out unit. I definitely have an interesting skill set. I can't wait to see it on global. Um, that's definitely, when I think of it. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting unit. I think that it's not a very powerful unit. I think it's definitely fun. And the limit burst can be pretty interesting because it says party wide guaranteed maximum multiplier damage on random outcome moves. So you can use that with Setzer, and his crazy multiplier moves on his random outcome will just be even higher. So that's something interesting to note that she will have synergy with existing units. I think the TMR is very underwhelming, and they probably could have done a lot more with that. Seems pretty simple. It's just plus 20 mag, increases limit break fill rate. Like they could have done, adds an extra element to their random cast on Condemn or something. So like
Yeah.
Typhoon is water and wind, and Sandstorm is Sandstorm is earth and wind. But yeah, like Flash Freeze could be like ice and lightning, like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I definitely think, as far as an accessory goes for TMR, incredibly underwhelming. I would not use it on any of my characters. Being a unit design character, I kind of expect everybody to go all out on their character. I mean, we have Orlando, for crying out loud. You can make an overpowered character.
Yeah.
She's cool, though. I definitely like how I said earlier, talking about Ruggles with his random ability. I do like the random abilities. I don't think like you mentioned, using her in trial or anything. Like I said, she's not going to be a very powerful unit. She's not going to be a unit that people are going to really want to use. I guess similar to Kelsis, is going to be novel and perhaps some very specific uses you'd get out of her.
Yeah. Now, kind of moving on to the whole fan festival occurrences. They do have, I believe, there's 4 or 5 more. It's definitely coming twice to North America. Once on the
Yeah,
East Coast, once in the West Coast. It's definitely coming to LA in December, which I'm looking forward to. Probably gonna attend that. So anybody who's watching that lives in LA, probably gonna be going. So if you guys wanna meet up with me and hang out, definitely can. Uh, I think it's gonna be in Taipei next, which is in September.
yeah.
They're gonna take a 1 month break, and then I think they're gonna go back in September. The other dates haven't been announced, so we don't know when, but I'm sure that that's going to be coming soon. You can definitely check out the Brave Exvius webpage. I'm sure, you just keep checking it, and I'm sure at some point they're going to let us know when the date's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. So that's pretty cool. I think they've been doing really well with FanFesta. I look forward to the coming FanFestas so I can get more of those Moogles, excuse me. But
Muggles.
yeah, that's only one Mog. We're talking plural,
Yeah.
Moogles.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. But definitely think that's really cool. Kind of surprised that they have even done something like this. Really, like that. No other mobile game would do this, and not many other games at all would do anything like this. So,
Oh.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think what definitely helps is the fact that it's a Square Enix game and none other than Final Fantasy,
It is Final Fantasy, right?
which is their longest franchise and one of the longest franchises in video game history. The only couple of other franchises that come anywhere near would be Zelda, Mario. So very very few games or franchises have reached this far, and of course, not very many games will make it this far. So for the fact that it's a mobile game, like you said, as well as obviously with the help of the being Final Fantasy and being Square Enix and how many people follow what they do and who they are, I think that we're definitely going to see. Hopefully, we'll see a lot more events like this, and hopefully, this game will keep on going for many, many months and years to come.
Yep, I agree. All right, so let's move on from FanFesta and let's talk about some of the upcoming updates that are actually going to be right around the corner. So we've got the new unit banner that features, we talked a little bit about it already, but it features Dark Knight Cecil, Luneth, similar to, the Player's Choice banner with a double 5-star. They've got some other useful, not necessarily top tier in the meta at the moment. They've been kind of dethroned, but Refi and Cecil are still great. How are you feeling about the enhancements that everybody's getting?
Well, the most noticeable enhancements are, of course, for the 5 stars. They're definitely going to be crucial for them to finally come back into the meta and making their way back into, into it with the big boys. I think the biggest boost is going to be for Lunith. He is going to be getting a huge enhancement to his abilities, starting with his advance, going from I think it's 30 or 40% or a 60% increase. It's gonna jump to a 100% increase at tier 2, and it's gonna deal damage. It's also gonna work with cut through, which at tier 2 will be, I think, a 50% ignore of defense, a higher modifier for damage, and if you cast advance before cut through, it'll turn into a slay, which will, I think, increase the modifier. I think overall, I think it becomes somewhere like, I think it's like 10% or 10 times the original damage that you'd be doing had you not casted both advance and cut through right after. He's definitely, he was a great unit at first when he came out way back then, because he was he was the second unit that had innate dual wield. He had good modifiers. He's also gonna be getting his sword master is gonna be increased to I forget what it's called, but it's going to be for katana, great sword, just regular swords, and I think that was it. Just the sword, the large sword,
Daggers.
and the katanas, and daggers. That's right, and daggers, and it's going to be increased to 50%.
Daggers are only 20% though, so.
Oh, daggers are still going to remain at 20. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the other 3 are going to be at 50%. That's pretty much a blade mastery, Dark Knight Soul, and I forget what the other one is. All in one. So I mean, you can slap Excalibur. If you happen to pull a Dark Knight Cecil, you can, slap Darkbringer in there for the Man-Eater and all that.
Yep.
So it's definitely going to be good. For those of you who have beaten the Gilgamesh trial, you can slap a Genji Blade on there, get the Katana boost. If you happen to put both a sword and a Katana, you can equip a second a Blade Mastery and a Dark Knight Soul for the increased damage as well. But keep in mind, you can only do so much because the modifiers only go up to 300% attack boost. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. If you are a new player and you are looking for some units to pull, or who you could be interested in, or maybe even you're a player on a budget, you don't want to spend much money, you're hoarding the tickets, hoarding lapis, you don't have many Zidanes, Luneth has innate dual wield. And with innate dual wield and these new enhancements, he's going to be pretty strong. And he's going to be pretty easy to gear, even. So he's not going to take a whole lot to gear, as like some other units would that, I have to farm dual wield to get Zidane, I have to get a apron dress for my olive, So he, out of the box, is going to be strong.
Yeah. Um, Last but definitely not least is Lunith's TMR. Celestial Gloves was probably one of the best items that you could pull for uh, back when he was first released. I don't know, at least 9 months ago. Um, it gives you 30% or 30 plus to all but stats, so attack, defense, magic, and spirit. So it's a great TMR for just about any unit you can put it on. It is an accessory, so if you happen to pull 2 Luniths, having 2 of those is amazing.
Alright, then Dark Knight Cecil's enhancements are going to be pretty strong. He is going to be one of the top finishers, I think, with the enhancement. And you get the. He has an ability that heals him now, too. So that'll be useful. The only thing that's strange with him is he's going to suicide if you dual wield with him. So I think. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I didn't pull him on JP. But you have to time a heal strangely in order for him to not kill himself. So I'm not sure how useful that is going to be with you having to babysit him, but still will be pretty cool.
Yeah. Also, notably, if you do happen to have a Riku or somebody who has I don't think it was Riku. I forget the unit. Who has a revive after death, what is it, post revive?
Auto raise.
Auto raise. There we go.
Re-raise, maybe.
Re-raise, yeah. You can let him suicide and do max damage, and he'll come right back up like nothing ever happened.
Right.
Just gonna dust the shoulders and just laugh it off.
Strategize behind him as well. If you want to run him like that, you can plan your team around preventing his death.
Yeah.
The other enhancements are for the units like Rosa. I don't even really think that's worth talking about. Refia and Cecil, I know, are getting some decent ones. I don't think it will be enough to bring Cecil back over Warrior of Light or Refia over. I don't know. I guess Refia, that's a different story. Refia will be more useful, surely, and especially if you need a healer. Healers are somewhat in short supply, I'd say, in Exvius. You either have Luca, Refia, Tillith, or Y'shtola. So that's pretty much all you've got to work with. If you don't have any of those, you're at, I'd say, a severe disadvantage. You don't have a capable healer at all. So if that is the case, try and get this Refia. I think the enhancements just kind of give her an extra boost. So she just kind of reinforces her being a strong healer.
Yeah. And also, as mentioned, Dark Knight Cecil's TMR is going to be great. It's equal damage to Cecil's Excalibur, except it does have the Man-Eater effect, which is useful if you haven't beaten Gilgamesh. It's definitely a useful thing. Of course, if you happen to cheese it, you don't need that. You would actually need Excalibur over that. But regardless, it is a great item. Or a great weapon. It's definitely useful in Arena when everybody is pretty much a man or woman, I guess. So the Man-Eater effect is definitely useful to be able to reach those higher damage limits in Arena.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic of future units, I think it's safe to note that Dark Veritas, whenever he comes out, if you have Deathbringers for him, he is going to be absolutely ridiculous. So,
yes.
If that's something you're looking forward to, if you played JP and you like Dark Veritas like me, then yeah, that's something you would want to be prepared for sure. Having
Yeah.
him geared up right from the get go. So yeah, if you're interested in that, this banner is not too bad. I think it's if you want to pull, go ahead and pull. It's not really a is it good or not? Like yes, it's good, but is it good for you? Unlike the current banner, in my opinion, don't pull. You know, so I think this upcoming banner is definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I think this banner more so is more for either a team reinforcement for you. So if you need better units, if you only have some 3-star base, some of these units are actually 3-star base, like Cecil, Rosa, and Sakura. They're all 3-star base. Cecil is probably the best of those three. The other ones are either 4-star Refia or 5-star base for Dark Knight Cecil and Lunith. Again, like we mentioned at the beginning, is this banner, like he said, is more for is this good for you? Do you really want to pull for Lunith and Dark Knight Cecil? Considering. But again, for new players, this is definitely a must-pull banner. You can pretty much get just about a solid team just from this banner alone.
Oh yeah.
Especially with these enhancements coming to both Dark Knight and Lunith. If you happen to pull one of those, you pretty much have a solid unit that will probably carry you through a good amount of the content moving forward.
I agree.
Moving on to Cecil, of course, we've already mentioned his TMR Excalibur, probably one of the most notable weapons in the game. It's definitely was the most useful and the most powerful up until recently when Titus was released, and of course on Friday neither of those will be the strongest. It'll be the robot arm. I forget what it's called. A Gagian.
A Gaian.
So, but regardless, this is a great weapon. If you do happen to pull Cecil and a Lunith, Excalibur will be amazing on him, especially with the enhancements. Focus is going to get an MP reduction for cost. It's not an amazing boost as opposed to Refia. We'll get more into her later. Holy Light, it just boosts your SPR and it heals a little bit. Again, it's not a notable thing. Saintly Wall does do a good amount of extra things. It does boost your protection while he's guarding other players. The mitigation damage gets boosted just slightly, and it does give you an auto refresh for every turn. So overall, it's not a huge amount of boost through his enhancements. For those of you who don't have a better tank, it's definitely going to be welcome changes if you do happen to pull him. But for those of you who have White Warrior of Light, White Knight Noel, Wilhelm, probably not going to be pulling for Cecil unless you need an Excalibur.
Right. So, you wanted to talk about Refia enhancements as well?
Sure. As far as Refia enhancements go, she is going to be getting some much more niftier buffs as opposed to Cecil as far as the support side goes. Particularly her what is it? Focus? No.
Embolden.
Embolden. It will be providing a slight heal over time throughout, as well as getting a noticeable MP reduction. Her raise is also going to be getting a big MP reduction. I think it's only going to cost 5 MP, which is probably the best thing coming to Refia.
Yeah, wow. That's full life too. That's not just a raise. That's full life.
Full raise. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a full health revive. That's only going to cost 5 MP, and if you do happen to farm a dual cast from Ludmil, however you want to call her, you will be able to revive 2 units for only 10 MP. So that's going to be great. I believe she's also going to be getting an innate refresh. It's not going to be a huge one, but it's definitely going to be enough to where it's going to be noticeable. in the long battles.
All right, yeah. So I definitely think those are some good enhancements for Refia. The heal over time on Embolden is actually really useful. So if Embolden is your damage boost, then you just get a free heal off of that every turn. So if you are casting it regardless if that is your buff for your attack or maybe your defense, then you just get a little extra bonus. Kaz's Pendant is pretty cool. That is a support ability, so it's only for her. But if you use Refia in what are they? The dungeon maps. I can't think of the name for them. No, expeditions are the new thing. Well, anyway, when you're walking around in the dungeons, you will heal 5 MP per 5 steps, and per turn in battle, you'll heal 5%. So I think that's definitely useful. She's going to be regenerating plenty of mana, even on her own, along with her reduced MP costs. It definitely gives her a buff to compete with the ridiculous healers. I don't think that she tops them, but she competes for sure.
Yeah. Moving on to the two less notable units, but definitely again for new coming players, I'm sure they're going to be welcomed units to get. Starting with Sakura, she is going to be getting a few enhancements to her kit. I think she's going to be getting a 20% damage reduction for the team, as well as a 40% defense and spirit boost. And
Yep.
she's also going to be getting elemental boost to thunder, light, and dark resist. At the second enhancement, it's also going to be doing it for 3 turns. It's going to give you 100% paralyzed resist, as well as an AoE heal of 1,000 plus her modifier, which I don't remember what it is. I think it's like 3.2 or something like that. So
3.4.
3.4. Thank you. So definitely going to be useful. Overall, I mean, she's not the greatest unit. Again, she's only a 3-star base, 5-star max. With these enhancements, she's going to be a little more useful for newer players. So if you do happen to pull her, which I'm sure you might, because she's a 3-star base during the banner, she's a welcome addition as a little support. Again, she's not overly amazing, but definitely some welcome additions to her kit.
Sakura
Go ahead.
is a story character.
Yes, Sakura is a story character.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
you don't have to worry about pulling her. One thing I do want to
That's
touch
right.
on really quick, though, before we talk about Rosa, is Sakura, because she's a story character, you can use her in the story trials. Um, you can only use story characters there for the Fina Rain Laswell trials that we got not too long ago.
About a month ago.
Yeah, and I personally haven't completed them. My Rain is like level 5, so I have no story unit strong enough to do this. I think Sakura with these enhancements is super viable for the story trials, and you should definitely use her, level her up, put her in your party if you have not done those yet.
Yeah.
I know the gear that you get is pretty good, even if you don't use it on the story character. So it's definitely worth going for if you are a newer player and you're trying to get, that extra accessory or a piece of armor or even a weapon like Purple Lightning is a really strong katana for how you get it. It's 92 to attack, I believe. So yeah, definitely something to think about, and I will be leveling my Sakura for trials, story trials.
Yeah.
And And then the last enhancements we have are on Rosa. Her sharp shot is going to go up from 1x to 2x modifier, and Bless is going to add 10 more MP per turn, and the modifiers are going to go up by 0.3. It's also going to add a heal of 1,725 HP with a 12x modifier split over 3 turns. So it's going to be the same. It's going to last just as long as the MP refresh, but yeah, not very noticeable, or not noticeable, but not very
Notable.
notable. Thank you. Yeah, definitely not very notable of an enhancement. And that pretty much does it for all of the upcoming enhancements. Along with the other new content coming out, we have Aigeon Trial. Now, this guy is supposed to be extremely hard. If you've watched the recent Exvius monthly update, they said that he is unlike any other trial that we have at the moment, and he is going to knock you out, quite literally, because he uses his fist.
Yeah. Definitely not a trial that many are going to be passing or beating around their first try. Especially for those of you who don't know what he does or have watched what happens on JP. Your will is definitely going to be shattered. Most of you, if not all of you, will fail at some point. Unless you've got 6 Orlandos and can one-shot, each individual body part. Yeah, I think I personally haven't looked into the trial. I kind of wanted to see what it felt like to be absolutely demolished for the millionth time by a trial.
Right.
But I just honestly want to see how bad it actually is. I've heard that it's definitely not going to be something that a lot of us are going to be able to beat anytime soon, unless you've been farming TMRs like crazy and you've got some top tier units with tons of TMR stacked. There is 2 strategies to beat him. I'm not too familiar with how they work. I know there's a body strat, and then there's the just the doing it in the proper order, which is I think right hand, then body, and then left hand. However, the hands do come back the turn after they've been destroyed, and each one has a set amount of times that they can be revived. I think the left hand is 3 times, the right hand is like 10 times, and then the body doesn't come back. But if you decide to go the body route, you must be able to do over 500,000 damage per turn, or else the I think it's the right hand will heal the body for 500k every turn. So definitely not something you want to do. There are going to be some pretty good awards, like we had mentioned earlier, the Aegeon Arm, which is going to give you 145 attack. It will be the highest damage dealing weapon in the game, even higher than Artisan. Actually, Artisan, we've been saying that the Brotherhood has been the highest, but actually Artisan has 135 attack, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So Artisan, I think, is the highest weapon.
Well, what do you know?
Yeah, and it also is going to enable High Tide, which will boost the limit burst gauge refill rate. You're going to be getting the standard 100 Lapis Trust Moogle when you use a limit burst. You're going to have to evoke Remu. Luckily, you don't have to kill him with Remu. As myself and I'm sure Nick over here, as well as many, if not all of you, absolutely hate having to kill a trial with an Esper.
Can't stand him. Hate it.
Yeah. So, but if you happen to evoke Remu, and you beat the trial, you will get a martial arts mastery, which will boost attack when using fists. That'll be great if you happen to have some snows laying around. You have some champions belts. You can boost all that. Use
Oh yeah.
champion
You have
belts
a fist
mastery.
user, it's gonna be great. Got a
So
Yan, somebody like that.
Eileen,
Furion. Ooh.
yeah, so definitely gonna be great. I think the most notable thing outside of the weapon though is World Destroyer. You have to beat the trial with no magic. You deal partial unmitigated damage and reduce attack, defense, magic, and spirit for all enemies. So it's an AoE
Full
break,
break, right.
full break, yeah. So definitely a huge, huge, huge um, materia that definitely I would suggest going for when you are ready and able to beat the trial. Um, it's definitely going to probably be one of the harder trials. I know that in global they did patch the bug where you could, if you had a unit that could cast Berserk, like Zargabath, you could use a unit to cast Berserk on an enemy, and then they would just auto attack. They would never attack you, and you would just have to keep spamming it, and you could eventually just clear the trial. Unfortunately, that has been fixed for global. It's not going to be around, so everybody's going to feel the full wrath of the robot.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in seeing how strong this trial really is because they've been talking it up, and like they said in the monthly update that they're not even going to attempt the trial. They're going to wait a little while before they do their trial run, like they do in the videos. So I'm curious. Is he really going to be that hard? I mean, he was pretty difficult in JP, and I think JP even had Ramza enhancements right now for Igon trial. So bring it on. Let's see. I'm ready.
Yeah, we're all going to be ready. Come Friday, I think we're all going to get a taste of the bot.
Yep. All right. Now, aside from that, the last thing we have to talk about is the new story. Now, story, a lot of people probably think mobile game story, but what's the point? Story in Exvius is actually really good. I'm surprised it lives up to the Final Fantasy name.
Yeah, I think at first, because of the lack of uh, content and all that, it definitely was kind of boring because there just wasn't enough. Even at launch, the game kind of just depended on events to keep everybody busy. I know for one, I did take a very small hiatus because there just wasn't anything for me to really do. Um, but I think overall, I think the story has definitely escalated, especially right up to where it was prior to this most recent thing with the Veritas or even the Darkfina section of it. But when it got to the last Veritas and you got to see all that, kind of spoilers alert, um, definitely I think the story is going to be good. It hasn't disappointed yet. I know you, Nick, you had mentioned to me that, as you were progressing through the story when you had come back less than a month ago, or about a month or two ago, you said that the story has definitely improved, and you probably spent a couple hours on while you were streaming just playing the story,
Oh yeah.
and even you had passed where I was, and I was like, damn, this has really gotten really good. So I think the story itself has gotten great. I think overall Gumi has done a great job with Square Enix to expand on everything. But I have high hopes for the upcoming story event on Friday, and for everything else coming up.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. We're gonna unlock a new continent. Parma, I believe is how you say it. It might be Pharma or something. It's Parma, I believe, though. And
Nah, you just want some chicken.
right. It's some kind of kingdom. I believe there's lots of like warriors there. It's like a warring continent. not necessarily they're at war, but they are strong warrior types. I'm not too familiar with it from JP. I actually never got this far in the story in JP because I mean I don't read Japanese. Why would I? I wouldn't even know what was going on, honestly. So this will be interesting to see. I'm excited to see where the heroes go with their new companion, and yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And like you said, they've done a good job. It's been impressive. Because mobile game, the last thing that I'm worried about is the story, and I definitely enjoyed it a lot. It's been one of the main things that I would play for when I was playing the story, so this new update is exciting for me.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, that concludes the first episode of Brave Alliance. This was episode 1. You want to say any closing statements?
No, I appreciate all of you guys watching the video. Don't forget to check us out on Twitch. We stream pretty consistently throughout the week. Again, Nick, his Twitch is JRPG_live. You can watch him play a lot of old school RPG games as well as JRPGs and Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, of course. Sometimes he'll kind of stray away and play some other games too on his free time, but for the most part, that's what you'll catch him on. You can catch me at twitch.tv/lethality with a 7, where I mostly play Brave Exvius. I do play other games like Players Unknown as Battlegrounds, but for the most part, it's just Final Fantasy throughout. Yeah. Um, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everything that Gumi has done, and I really hope that the game continues to proceed how it's been progressing, and hope to see all you guys on the second episode.
All right, well, that sounds good enough for me, so that'll be the end.